The wind howled across the edge of Draven 6, rattling the thin panels of the settlement's domes. Taran Wolf had just stepped outside his small hab unit, expecting another day of quiet. Maybe a malfunctioning supply drone whining for repairs. Maybe the usual complaints about the weather from his neighbors. Instead, his eyes caught movement, and the world froze for a heartbeat. A figure stood on the ridge, silhouetted against the twin suns just dipping below the horizon. Blue skin glimmered faintly under the alien light, and long, tapered ears flicked with precision. Her armor, polished and ceremonial, seemed designed to intimidate. Even 5 years later, Taran felt a tight pull in his chest, a mix of shock, disbelief, and something else he refused to name. Kira. Her eyes, golden and sharp, locked on him. "I've searched for you, human," she said, voice carrying a mixture of relief and fury. Every movement was purposeful, practiced, and somehow beautiful, like a predator in stillness. She stepped forward, placing a boot against the edge of his doorway as if testing gravity itself. Taran considered shutting the door, blaming heatstroke or the recycled rations he'd eaten for hallucinations. But she didn't wait. The words he barely caught through his implant made his heart skip. Reckless, humans, vanish. 5 years ago, he had patched her up on a battlefield soaked in smoke and blood. She had glared at him like he had offended the universe itself when he offered medical assistance. Then chaos had torn them apart, and he was shipped back to the human sectors, thinking he'd never see her again. Apparently, she had other plans. "Why did you leave?" she demanded, pacing his cramped living room like it was a training ground. "I thought you'd forget me," Taran admitted, his voice uncertain. "I was just a medic. You were a legend waiting to happen." Her pacing halted. For a moment, she seemed younger, almost vulnerable. "In my culture, a life debt is sacred," she said quietly. "You are written into my bloodline. My family asked for you." Taran sank into his chair, overwhelmed. Written into her bloodline. That sounded more like a story from a legend than real life. She stepped to the window, eyes tracing the lights of verdant edge, twin moons casting silver highlights across her armor. "Did you leave because you didn't care, or because you cared too much?" He swallowed. I was afraid if I stayed, I'd care too much. And that wouldn't be fair to you." Her ears twitched, a subtle sign he remembered from battlefield drills. "Humans," she murmured softly, a small smile curving her lips. "You vanish for 5 years because you care too much. Inefficient, but understandable." Taran laughed. It sounded odd even to him. "I specialize in inefficiency," he said. She nodded, approving. "Good. You will need that where I come from." The following days were chaos wrapped in curiosity. Kira adapted to life on frontier settlement as if preparing for a covert operation. Hover carts, wind turbines, even the neighbor's cat startled her attention. Every sound made her ears twitch, every vibration seemed like a potential threat. Taran tried to explain human normalcy, but she treated it as tactical intel to be assessed. One morning, she discovered a cargo hauler idling in the yard. Without warning, she yanked the towing hook and dragged the 6-ton machine 5 meters. The operator screamed. The hauler groaned. Taran faintly cursed gravity. She nodded, satisfied. Acceptable resistance level. Later, she apologized to a child for not transmitting distress signals correctly, mistaking the boy's giggles for protocol violations. Taran tried not to laugh. He failed. But beneath the confusion, a quiet warmth grew between them. Nights on the porch, watching the shield pylons cycle through energy, Kira asked endless questions about human customs. Chairs, for instance, baffled her. "You rest by folding into weakened posture?" she asked, genuinely curious. Taran shrugged. "Yes, and it's glorious." Her ears tilted thoughtfully. That simple exchange reminded him why he had stayed alive all these years. Then, dawn brought a sharp warning. Kira's wrist device chimed, projecting a red holographic glyph. "Raider code," she whispered. "The faction that ambushed my unit 5 years ago. They're close." Taran's stomach clenched. "The ones who almost killed you." She nodded, already gathering gear. "We go now." I'm coming, he said. Her brows lifted. Taran, these raiders, they kill without honor. I know, he said. And I know what they did to you, but I'm not letting you face them alone. Not again. Reluctantly, she agreed. Stay behind me. And do not touch anything that glows red. Of course, Taran immediately touched 3 glowing red panels. Kira slapped his hand away, urgency cutting through her voice. The ridge was barren, scarred by recent combat. Raider figures emerged, jagged in their armor, rifles humming with predatory energy. Kira signaled silence, blades drawn. She moved like liquid metal, precise and deadly. Taran clutched a medkit and an emergency plasma cutter, mostly trying not to die. When he accidentally cut a raider's weapon instead of the raider, Kira gave an approving nod. Disarmament is honorable, she said. But then, a larger figure appeared. The raider captain, marked with the red sigil of betrayal, the one responsible for the ambush that had nearly killed her. Kira froze for a fraction of a second, enough to reveal vulnerability. Taran didn't think. He lunged, slamming into the captain's side, a desperate shield for the warrior who had once saved him. The captain staggered, then aimed his rifle. Kira shouted, diving between them as a beam flared against her armor. Taran dropped beside her, ripping open the medkit. You are not dying, he said, voice raw. I refuse to let your family blame me. She attempted a pained smile. They would avenge me. That does not make me feel better. The captain advanced, and Taran grabbed a stabilizer flare meant for ship repairs. It erupted in a blinding column of plasma, disorienting the enemy. Kira surged to her feet, pain pushing her but determination pulling harder. With a final strike, precise and lethal, she shattered the captain's gauntlet and disarmed him. The remaining raiders scattered. The ride back to settlement was quiet. Kira rested against her seat, exhaustion softening her features. My family will find this story unbelievable, she murmured. A human charging a raider captain with nothing but a flare. Taran said with a weak smile. Yes, she said, eyes glinting. But they will also find the human remarkable. The stars blurred into streaks as the skiff jumped to faster-than-light travel. Kira reached for his hand, warm and steady. Taran took it without hesitation. For the first time in years, he wasn't running. He was going somewhere he belonged. I chased you, Kira admitted softly, voice carrying the weight of truth. Not because of a debt, but because something in me refused to let you disappear. Taran felt her words anchor him, giving shape to feelings he hadn't named. I ran because I thought I wasn't worthy. But worthiness, maybe it's built together. Her long ears lifted. Then stay. Meet my family. Live among us, not as someone owing a life debt, but as someone chosen. Taran laughed quietly. Chosen sounds terrifying. Less terrifying than losing you again, she said. And in that moment, as the stars stretched around them and the universe hummed its distant song, Taran Wolf realized that sometimes, the human heart could carve a path even across the void of space, side by side with a warrior starborn. The skiff shimmered back into visibility as it descended toward settlement. Kira rested her head against the seat, one hand still pressed to her side, and Taran could see the faint glow of the plasma patch he had applied. Her ears twitched occasionally, betraying the lingering tension that he couldn't yet see in her expression. This is home? Taran asked cautiously. Where your family waits? Kira's eyes softened, tracing the settlement's domes against the rising twin suns. Yes. They have watched, argued, and planned for years for this meeting. And you have survived their scrutiny long enough to finally arrive. Taran swallowed, unsure whether to be proud or terrified. Meeting a starborn family was one thing. Meeting her family, with ceremonial expectations, political agendas, and centuries of tradition, was something else entirely. As the skiff touched down, Kira's posture stiffened. Stay close. They will not accept half measures. Half measures were exactly what Taran specialized in. The compound was massive, an intricate labyrinth of towers, bridges, and ceremonial halls that glimmered with faint bioluminescent lights. Kira led him through corridors lined with alien tapestries, their textures shimmering like liquid metal, their symbols glowing faintly. You must learn etiquette, Kira whispered, her voice tight. My family measures worth in respect, history, and precision. One misstep, and you might become entertainment. Taran tried to nod, but his stomach refused to cooperate. He wasn't a diplomat. He wasn't even fully convinced he belonged in the same room as Kira, let alone her entire lineage of warriors, strategists, and scholars. They reached a massive chamber. A starborn council awaited, seated in high-backed chairs carved from a single black mineral that absorbed light. Faces, sharp and angular, regarded him with piercing intensity. Some had ears like Kira's, others had them smaller, more feline, twitching at every movement he made. My uncle, Kira whispered, believes you should learn blade combat immediately. My aunt insists ceremonial protocol comes first. My cousin is convinced you are fragile and should be protected at all costs. Taran swallowed again. Fragile, he muttered. They all underestimate humans, Kira said softly. It will be amusing. The council's leader, a tall figure with silver streaks across blue skin, rose gracefully. Taran Wolf, she said, her voice echoing in the chamber. You are credited with saving Kira's life. You are not dismissed as a simple medic. You are acknowledged. The words sounded formal, heavy with history. Taran nodded awkwardly. Thank you. I think. You will undergo training, another voice said sharply. Physical, mental, and ceremonial. Your worth must be proven, not because she asks, but because we demand it. Taran blinked. Proven. Like tests. The council leaned forward. Yes. You will learn to wield the blade, master the shield, and recite lineage codes. You will endure simulations designed for warriors who have survived galactic skirmishes. You will survive, if you are capable. Kira's hand brushed his. Do not worry, she whispered. I have prepared them. They will not break you, unless you allow it. The first day was a blur of chaos. Kira's uncle thrust twin blades into Taran's hands. Balance, he barked. Form. Discipline. Fail, and you dishonor not only yourself but her lineage. Taran fumbled, slicing the air and nearly knocking over ceremonial pillar. Kira's ears twitched in amusement. I see humans are creative, she said. You're supposed to teach me, not make fun of me. Taran shouted. He stumbled backward, nearly tripping over a low ornamental bridge. Kira caught his sleeve. Creativity is survival. That is what made you memorable to me. Her words gave him courage. He took a deep breath, adjusted his stance, and tried again. Blades clashed in rhythmic arcs. Sweat poured. Muscles screamed. By evening, his arms were leaden, but the council nodded in silent acknowledgement. He had survived the first test. Night fell across settlement. Taran lay on a simple cot in Kira's quarters. She had stripped away her ceremonial armor, wrapping her long form in soft travel cloth. Even exhausted, she radiated presence, a quiet strength that made him feel both small and important. I don't belong here, he said quietly. I fix rations, I repair doors. I don't fight battles with alien swords or memorize codes etched in your bloodline. Kira leaned back against the railing, gazing at the glowing moons. You belong because you acted when others would hesitate. That is the measure of a life worth noting. Not heritage, not training, not lineage. Courage, humanity, that is enough. Taran wanted to believe her. He wanted to. But deep down, fear whispered that he would fail tomorrow, that the council would cast him aside, and that the distance between human fragility and starborn expectation would become impossible to cross. The next morning brought another challenge. A holographic battlefield lit the chamber, shifting landscapes across 500 meters of simulated terrain. Kira stood beside him, twin blades ready. This is your trial, she said. The simulation adapts to your weaknesses. You will survive if you are clever, brave, or lucky. Preferably all three. Taran stepped into the arena, heart hammering. Projected raiders surged toward him, their energy rifles humming and glowing. The simulation was ruthless. Each step miscalculated brought simulated death. But Taran remembered Kira's voice, her confidence in him, and the first lesson from the battlefield years ago. Improvisation beats expectation. He ducked, rolled, and used the plasma flare from his medkit to blind the nearest radar projection. Kira followed, moving in perfect harmony with his improvised attacks. Together, they dismantled the simulation, Taran relying on instinct more than skill, Kira correcting, guiding, and occasionally laughing at his unorthodox moves. By the end, even the council, watching through observation panels, nodded approval. "The human adapts," one commented. "Unexpectedly effective." Training days melted into weeks. Taran's body ached constantly, his mind spun with new codes, languages, and combat protocols. Yet, beneath the fatigue, a rhythm emerged, a partnership, almost a silent understanding, between human unpredictability and starborn precision. Kira introduced him to the lineages, the histories, and the unspoken politics of her people. Taran listened, absorbing as best he could, occasionally fumbling names, traditions, and ceremonial gestures. Kira corrected gently, her long fingers brushing his arm, a silent reassurance. One evening, during a rare quiet moment, Kira led him to the cliffs overlooking the twin moons. The winds carried the scent of glowing flowers and ionized air. "You've done more than survive," she said. "You've earned a place here, not because of what you did for me, but because of who you are when no one is watching." Taran stared at the horizon. "I feel like I'm only starting to understand, but I'm afraid it's not enough." "Fear is part of growth," Kira said, tilting her head. "Even warriors fear. The difference is, we move forward anyway." Then, the calm shattered. The holographic alarms from the settlement flared, followed by the unmistakable signal of a radar fleet approaching in the outer orbit. Kira's ears snapped upward, alertness sharpening into razor focus. "They've found us," she said. "Not the simulations. Real raiders. They've traced my movements since the last encounter. And now," her gaze hardened. "Now, we fight for more than survival. We fight for our people." Taran's heart raced, but he didn't hesitate. "I'm with you," he said. "Where you go, I go." Kira nodded, determination settling across her features. Together, they activated the settlement shield pylons, armed energy turrets, and prepared the inhabitants for evacuation protocols. Taran moved among the civilians, ensuring they reached safety, even as Kira led the offensive operations. The radar assault was swift, merciless. Ships glided silently through the orbit, dropping strike pods and assault droids onto the settlement surface. Kira led counterattacks, her blades slicing through drone armor, her precision a dance of calculated chaos. Taran followed with medkits and improvised weaponry, striking at weak points in the droids' exosuits, occasionally causing explosions that rocked the battlefield. The humans and Starborn together formed a chain of resistance, an alliance born from necessity and trust. Taran realized something profound. Even a single human, armed with courage and a willingness to act, could tip the scales. And beside him, Kira's presence magnified that effect tenfold. Hours passed, the battle stretching from dawn into a violet-tinged night. Exhausted, blooded, but unbowed, they finally repelled the assault. The raider fleet retreated, leaving scorched land and shattered droids behind. Kira stood atop a ridge, her long ears flattened against her head in exhaustion. Taran approached, offering her support. "You saved the settlement," he said softly. She shook her head, a tired but triumphant smile on her lips. "We saved it, together." For the first time in years, Taran didn't feel out of place. He belonged, not because of a title, not because of lineage, but because he had chosen to stand, to act, and to fight alongside those he cared for. And as the twin moons rose high above the horizon, casting silver light over the scorched battlefield, Taran realized the frontier was no longer just a place of survival, it was a place of purpose, of connection, and of stories waiting to be written. Kira reached for his hand, a small gesture that carried unspoken words. Taran took it without hesitation. Side by side, human and starborn, they faced the vast expanse of space, ready for whatever new challenge would follow.